Hey, Chad Peterman here, your host of the Can't Stop the Growth podcast, a show that advances the home services industry and beyond. In this exclusive series, I've joined forces with Camp Digital to bring you powerful learnings that advance you and your business in the realm of all things marketing. Together, we bring content that empowers you to build a positive, healthy workplace for you, your people, and your bottom line. So let me officially pass the mic to Camp Digital for today's episode, chock full of insights that you can take and apply to your growth. Now listen and grow.
At Camp Digital, we know that staying competitive is paramount. Whether you're a seasoned business owner or just starting out, this series provides you with the tools and knowledge to prepare and advance your home service business to thrive in this dynamic landscape.
Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down with Logan Bergevin. He's the director of search at Camp Digital, and he leads a dynamic team dedicated to transforming digital marketing strategies for Camp Digital's clients in the home service industry. Today, we sat down and had a great conversation about all things search. We touched on offline conversion tracking and why it's important. We talked about innovative ways to reach customers in today's challenging market. We talked about the KPIs that really matter and the ones that you should pay attention to, and some ways that you could improve campaigns and some outside-of-the-box campaigns that you could start implementing today. Enjoy this podcast, and thanks for listening. Well, I'm really excited about this episode. I get to sit down with Logan Bergevin from Camp Digital. He is the director of search. He has a ton of information to share with our audience. Welcome, Logan.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan. Really excited to talk all things paid search with you today.
Me too. All right, well, let's get into it. How did you even get into this industry?
Yeah, great question. So my background in, data really started in college. I was working with a technology called ground penetrating radar, and I was doing research on identifying mass burial Holocaust sites in Lithuania. And what I really found was data always tells a story. And so I had finished college and moved into a different career, and happenstance found me in a Target with a former colleague at Camp Digital, as well as a childhood friend. And she was like, are you looking for a career change? I think you'd be a really good fit for this job. And I said, yeah, I'm ready to make a move. And here we are, 3 years later. I've just fallen in love with digital marketing and the story that it tells.
For those of you that don't know, Camp specializes in home services. So today, we're really going to dive deep into some of the ways that our customers and anyone that is marketing in home services can target audiences. So the first thing that I really wanted to dive into is paid search. Google right now, when someone's looking for AC repair, when they're looking for a new installation, they go right to Google. And there's only a few spots to come up there right now. So Logan, can you first tell our audience, where are the most important ways to show up on the search engine results page?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking about the search engine results page, generally, if you're doing a really high intent search, such as plumber near me or AC repair, the very first thing that's going to pop is going to be your LSA ads. These are the two boxes at the top with the Google Guaranteed badge. And then generally below that, we have our search campaigns, paid campaigns from Google Ads. And then below that is generally the map pack, which can include a sponsored ad. And then finally, we have the organic section. And so Google's product and the way that its SERPs have been laid out is constantly evolving. But one of the biggest trends that we've seen is more and more of Google's products are being put into the SERP, leaving less room for organics and more room for either their map pack product, paid ads, and then, of course, LSA at the very top.
Yeah, so right now, and there's very few spots to really show up in those paid areas and also with LSAs. So can you talk to our audience about some tips for optimizing those pay-per-click campaigns? Let's first start with, the customer that doesn't have a huge budget right now, but they have a large service area. So what are some tips that you might give them?
One of the very first things that I recommend whenever you're trying to optimize your search campaigns, whether that be for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, is first understand the customer journey and what you're trying to target. In general, demand calls in the home services have a transaction window from a consumer finding out that they have a problem to actually making a contact with the business of about 20 to 40 minutes. And so it's a really, really short window. And in that time period, you're dealing with your customers who are going through a lot of anxiety, right? If I wake up without hot water, for one, I'm going to be a really crabby person. But two, I need to get this figured out. I need to get it figured out fast, right? Or if you come home from a long day of work and your home is 90 degrees, right? You're worried about your family. You need somebody to come out immediately. And so you have to start asking your questions, but also phrasing your ad copy about what does the consumer care about, right? And what's going to separate you out from the other competition? What are your unique selling points?
I love that. Can you dive more into that?
100%. So whether your unique selling points are, are you fully licensed and insured? Do you offer warranties on the products that you sell? Can you provide a time value, such as, same day arrival for some of your services? These are all things that consumers respond to and they want to know because, like I said, high anxiety situation, you're having somebody come into your home that you've never met before. And, being a Midwesterner, we're always going to tell you everything you want to know about us, about the location of where we live. And so for a lot of people, right, like this is something that's really uncomfortable. And so how do you build that trust in your ads while also kind of refining your ad copy to really ensure that it's relevant to what they're searching for?
So the first suggestion you're saying is be a standout in those ads. Be a reason for someone to pick up the phone and give you a call.
Yes, exactly, right? What is going to separate you out?
So would you suggest kind of doing also a competitor analysis?
Absolutely. So competitor analysis can be great in understanding, what are they doing in their ads themselves, right? And it's always a good idea too to see, is there a headline that they're using that maybe you feel like you can refine or tweak? Or maybe they're offering a specific, $50 off coupon, or they're putting pricing into their model, right? Is that something that you want to look at doing? These are all things that with a competitor analysis, you're going to be able to identify not only who's playing in the market, but also what they're doing in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, when you don't have a huge budget, you really want to show up. What are some of the recommendations you might make or changes in your targeting where you could still get a good amount of exposure, but you're not spending like the full budget reaching your maximized service area?
So one of the things that I recommend right off the bat is not having too broad of a location targeting. You're going to spread yourself way too thin if you've got, $100 a day and you're targeting a metro area of like 3.5 million people, right? You're just not going to get a lot of search impression share. But the other thing that I would really focus in on is your keywords that you're using. Are the keywords that you have in your campaigns, are they really high intent, low funnel keywords? There's many different types of keyword intent. There's informational. So when people are looking for information about a product or a service. There's commercial, which is a little lower in the buying funnel where they're starting to compare products and services. And then we have finally transactional keywords. And these are the ones that I recommend focusing in on because these have the highest intent, the most propensity to convert on. And that's really where you want your marketing dollars to go to. If you're using a lot of these other keyword types, you're probably wasting spend.
Can you give an example of that? Can you give an example of a transactional keyword?
Sure. Plumber repair near me. The person is clearly showing that they are looking for a specific service. And not only that, but it's a localized search, right? Versus an informational would be, how much does a new 50-gallon water heater cost, right? They're starting the journey or they're starting to move through the marketing funnel, but they're really not at the point where we're probably ready to capture them.
What are your opinions on utilizing day parting for customers that don't have a huge budget?
You should always focus, for one, on what are your hours? Like, can you take calls anyways? If you're running ads 24/7, but yet you can only take calls from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., you're wasting a lot of spend. And you're also probably not doing a great job of providing trust to that customer who could have used you, right? Because if they call you 5 p.m. after they get off of work and you don't pick up the phone, they're probably not going to ever choose to use you again, right? And so not only can day parting save you money by being efficient and ensuring that you're capturing the most demand at times that you can take it, but also it just helps with your overall trustworthiness and brand reputation.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit about particularly optimizing campaigns based on capacity? Can you talk through that a little bit on what Camp does?
So Camp has a really unique product. It's called C Pro, and it's directly integrated with our clients' call boards. And why that's so important is if you've got 20 plumbing jobs booked over the next 3 days, right? And you cannot take any more plumbing calls, right? They're all filled with demands. They're all water heater repairs or water heater installs because all of our plumbing clients love them. We know that we should not be spending heavily in paid search. And so what we do is we actually adjust the offer of the ad to be less competitive, less aggressive, but we also reduce your daily spends. In addition, we can, do things with location targeting, get more specific to areas. And so it's such a fantastic product that aligns with what our customers need for that day to keep their techs busy. Because at the end of the day, if your techs are just sitting around, one, you're losing money, but two, it causes the tech to also look for other jobs or places where they're going to have a full call board. They're going to have opportunities. And we know how difficult it can be to hire for the home services industry.
So a way to really get the types of jobs that you need at that given time to fill your call board.
Yes.
Very cool. Let's talk about LSAs real quick. I know this has been a huge topic lately. People are super frustrated. Seems like a lot of people were coming up really well in the past, and now they're not. Can you offer any insight to that?
LSA is a fantastic product that everybody wants to use, right? It's the only marketing platform where you can actually get your money back if, it's out of your service area or it's not a service that you provide. One of the things that we've seen with LSA over the years is that, you used to have 3 spots to fire on the desktop, and now we're down to 2. And so one of the recommendations that we have here at Camp Digital is, are you checking all of the service boxes that you can provide? Are you using a zip codes or counties in your location targeting to provide more signals to Google about the areas that you serve? Are you ensuring that the reviews that come in are being placed on GBP versus LSA because you double dip then? You get a review for GBP, which then applies to your LSA. Are you maximizing budgeting dollars in LSA, right? If your daily spend is too low, or if LSA is spending it all in a day, maybe that's an area for you to increase your budgets to capture more leads that are generally the highest quality.
Let's get into some things that I think, a lot of our audience has spent a lot of money on pay-per-click and LSAs, and those are normal terms in our industry. But I think there's a whole other area of targeting that a lot of people are not taking advantage of in our space in search. And this comes to like display and PMAX ads and unique audience targeting that we can utilize. Can you first explain to our customers like what a PMAX campaign is, PerformanceMAX?
PerformanceMAX campaigns are Google's broadest campaign type that they have, which just means that it's utilizing all of Google's marketing channels, aka YouTube, the partner websites that they have, which is millions of websites across the internet are partnered with Google to show ads, as well as search campaigns, just general search ads. And so PerformanceMAX is really what I consider an omni-channel marketing campaign. And the easiest way to describe, a display, demand gen, or higher funnel ad type is if you've ever been in market for a new couch or a new car, and then all of a sudden, every single website you visit has an ad from Wayfair or your local Toyota dealership, right? And that's because you've been identified as being in market. And so those are those higher funnel campaigns. You're not actually doing a search in Google in that moment, but you've shown intent or interest in the product or service.
I think everyone can relate to that here. So how would an HVAC company right now, it's summer, installs might be down, repair might be up, they're getting a lot of repair calls, not a ton of install. How would somebody utilize a campaign like that to possibly get in front of more people searching for AC replacement?
Right off the bat, what I recommend is that you utilize people who are in a longer transaction buying window. And what I mean by that is for demand calls, I had mentioned it's about 20 to 40 minutes before, they pick up the phone and make a call when they realize they don't have hot water or AC. But when somebody then realizes that repair turns into an install, we see that transaction window become longer. about 4 to 7 days because they want to get multiple quotes. They don't know if the first estimate was the best value for them. And so what we can do is we can use those higher funnel campaigns to target more broadly people who are interested in HVAC installs, water heater installs. And that's because we have a longer time frame to hit them with ads across all of the Google products that we can serve on, which generally then when they do decide to purchase, right, you're top of mind or they've decided to get another second opinion from you. It's really another shot at the bat, but the transaction window is long enough that targeting becomes much more effective. And we can use something called affinity segments or in-market audiences, which is simply Google has identified a subset of consumers who have done searches for these specific keywords, which would be called search query remarketing, or they've identified that they've been interested in a new HVAC system, and we can use all of Google's data to really target those consumers.
That is super cool. And the cost per impression is pretty low on that, isn't it?
It's extremely cheap. Yes, absolutely. Higher funnel or high impression campaigns are generally a lot cheaper to run. And I would also just like to add, sometimes those higher funnel campaigns are also great at brand awareness. You know, repeatedly showing somebody your name across the internet is going to increase their propensity to purchase from you when it comes time for them to, have a repair of their water heater or get their AC tuned up for the season.
That's really cool. So let's say we have a customer and he's on a CRM of, let's say, Service Titan. And in Service Titan, he's identified customers he hasn't done business with in over a year, and he wants to interact with them. So basically, they could take that list, right, of customers that haven't done business with ABC Plumbing in a year and hand it to a company like Camp. And what would you suggest if they say, like, I really want to get in front of these customers. I want to put an offer. I want to let them know that, we'd love to earn their business again. How might you target a list like that?
So I was actually talking to a client maybe a month or two ago, kind of as we were entering into shoulder season or, kind of in the middle of it. And I was asking them, like, what kind of traditional marketing are they doing? Or are they doing any email marketing? And the reason why I posed that question to them is if you're doing email marketing and you have a huge customer match list and maybe you're doing a AC tune-up special or you're offering a new vertical for your business, we can take that customer match list that you're using in that email marketing campaign or just the data that you have throughout your time as being a home services business, and we can create really custom ad copy aligned with whatever special you're running, whatever information you want to show to that consumer base to get them to take action during that time. Also drum up business when times are slower, but also can be used to target people who maybe you did repair their AC system 2 years ago, and you now want to target them with a membership campaign because you just rolled that out last year. It's a really powerful tool that we can utilize.
Is there a minimum amount of customers that you need to have on that list in order for it to be effective?
So about 2 weeks ago, I was at Google Marketing Live, and before that, the minimum customer list that was needed was 1,000 people. Google's actually decreasing that number down to 100. I would still recommend that you give us the most robust, or your marketing partner, the most robust list that you have. You can also segment it out by the type of job that you service them for. We can do targeting based off of different verticals. But in general, I would say the more data is generally better for Google. Its algorithm likes data and can consume a lot of it. And so the more signals that you can feed about the type of consumer, their demographics to Google, the better the retargeting is going to be.
I think that's really important because I think a lot of our customers are trying to interact with customer lists and they don't really know how to do it except for like a direct mail campaign. And so this is a really cost-effective way with high frequency to reach your customer base or a list of customers that you haven't interacted with in a while. So I really appreciate that. I want to get into offline conversion integration. And first, I would like you to kind of explain what that is, and then we'll get into some of the key things that you might be able to pull out of it. Does that make sense? So tell us exactly what that term means.
So offline conversion integration is a really fun word. You'll hear it called OCI for short. But really what offline conversion integration is at its most basic is providing us insight into parts of the marketing funnel that the home services industry has not had access to before. And what I mean by that, in general, it is really easy to see a click on an ad. It's really easy to see a website visit or someone engaging with that site. And in many cases, it's easy to see the phone call that comes through. But after those steps, we start to lose insight into, was it a quality call? Was it a bookable lead? Was it a booked lead itself? And then importantly, right, did that lead turn into a transaction? Did you actually run that call for revenue? And offline conversion integration gives us insight into full marketing funnel attribution. It's a really exciting product. And all it's going to do is give us an ability to create more precise ad copy, understand keywords and the types of transactions that come off of them in a much broader view, and overall increase efficiencies throughout the home services industry as far as marketing spend goes.
It's really cool. I saw an example of this where last month, like a pay-per-click campaign attributed $5,000 in Service Titan to, this, and all that was happening is the first click attribution was getting the diagnostic fee only, right? But later, when you actually looked into that, the customer came back like 12 different times, and what actually attributed from the pay-per-click campaign was over $300,000 of revenue. But if I'm a customer, if I'm a marketing person for a home service company, I'm looking at my CRM and I'm looking kind of the revenue each one of my campaigns brought in. And to me, a lot of them look like they're not performing because I'm not getting the full picture of what's going on with that account. So how would a customer set this up, whether it's with Camp or another agency that they're working with? Like, how would they get this data, which is so important right now to have, because it's really fact versus speculation on whether something's working or not?
It's a great question. And quite honestly, I don't know if I can answer it. And the reason for that is there are so many ways that you could technically do OCI, whether that be going through your CRM and integrating with Google Ads, whether that be pulling the data out and manually auditing through it and going through the customer journey step by step, and then importing your spreadsheet into Google Ads. That's one way to do it. But it really is kind of dependent on what your technological level is at, right? Who your marketing providers are, and if they offer this as a service. And then two is there's a lot of refinement that goes into OCI and making sure that it's working properly. And so I'm sorry that I can't give you a more concrete answer, but there really are a lot of variables that go into OCI and ensuring that it's working properly and deduplicating some of the data points.
Yeah, and I think that's an okay answer. I think the important thing that we want to get across in this is just the numbers aren't always what they seem. And if you don't have the full picture of performance, you really don't know. There's a whole offline conversions that are happening that your marketing dollars aren't getting credit for.
Well, and I think, Megan, you brought up a really good point about like, what is the full customer journey, right? And so I often see on the accounts at Camp that are set up with OCI that their first interaction was 3 or 4 years ago. And it was from a paid click. And the interactions since then, have been through their Google business profile or have been through them coming directly to the site. And maybe that first encounter was off of a keyword for AC maintenance. But it's 3 or 4 years later that I then see a transaction come through for an AC install. And technically, that can all be attributed to their first digital touch point of paid search or organics or direct or whatever it is that we first captured them on. But providing that holistic view of a customer journey is extremely important, especially because the way that you input data into your CRMs, oftentimes we see customers' first touch point was the tech ran out for the repair, but then it turned into an install. Well, they're a repeat customer in some CRMs then. And so that install value actually gets applied to a repeat or existing customer versus the paid search campaign that it came off of or the organic campaign that it came off of.
Yeah, great point. Let's get into reporting because you have these campaigns. I think what I see happen in this industry is people are confused. They're getting a lot of data thrown at them. They don't really have time to sift through all of it. companies are providing more and more and more data, but what's the meaningful data? What's the takeaway data? So if you could offer some KPIs, some reporting things that our customers, that this audience should be looking at to see, the key performance indicators in search, I think that could be really helpful.
When I go into a Google Ads or a Microsoft Ads account, there's a few key performance indicators that I'm looking at. The first one being, what's our cost per conversion? And depending on how your Google Ads system is set up, and generally in the home services this applies, is a conversion is a phone call, a lead form, a chat ended, or maybe a schedule engine booking, right? The contact with your business. We want to see a cost per conversion across almost all verticals and locations of around $80 to $100 at Camp Digital. So it's costing us to acquire an AC repair contact or an AC install lead $80 to $100. That's one of the very first things that I look at is what are we paying per conversion? The other one that I want to see is click-through rates, right? Click-through rates tell me a lot about the performance of an account. And that's because click-through rates tell me, is the ad relevant to what the consumers are searching for? If I type in water heater repair and I get shown a sump pump repair ad, I am not having very good relevancy, right? It's not the product or the service that I'm looking for. But it also indicates to me whether or not the overall ad copy is resonating with what consumers are looking for, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm not including the value adds or the unique selling proposition or the time values that I should be using in that ad copy. And that's a really good place to look. In general, industry average in the home services is a 1.5% click-through rate. We really shoot for 2% or higher. And that can kind of gauge, like, are there specific ad groups too that I need to look at? It's not always looking at things from a campaign level. Sometimes you have to dig in one step further and actually look, is it my plumbing repair ad? Is it my sump pump ad? Is it my water heater repair ad?
What is your opinion on, amount of budget you should be put towards a branding campaign? So, for your business versus search terms.
My recommendation in general, and this is Cam's recommendation as well, is you do want to put money towards your brand, right? You don't want to have really low, what we call search impression share on your branded ads. And that's because Google's going to give you a discount because it knows it's you, right? And so you're going to be paying a really low cost per conversion. You're going to have a really high conversion rate on your branded. But what it's doing is it's a defensive play. And it's a defensive play because other people, keywords are what I like to call democratic. Everybody can bid for whatever keywords that they want. You may not necessarily be able to use it in ad copy because it's copyrighted or trademarked, but keywords, anybody can use your name. Anybody can use other businesses' names. And so by having a search branded campaign that gets fairly high search impression share, you're really protecting yourself against other competitors because Google knows it's you. They're going to place you closer to the top and they're going to give you a discount on your name.
Awesome. Thanks for that. What are some of your favorite ways to dig into data outside of what your agency is offering for reporting dashboard? Like what are some of the ways you dig into accounts besides looking at the MCC?
I do truly think that Google Ads is a great platform, but inside of Google Ads, they have their own reporting tools. The beauty of Google Ads is that it's a very visual data set because there's a graph, right? And a lot of people can easily change their metrics. But outside of Google Ads, I use ChatGPT to help me understand data points to look at long-term trends. It's really important whenever you're using an AI product to ensure that your prompt is concise, that you're feeding it any relevant information about, did you make any changes here? Or did you notice any market condition changes over this time period? Because for one, you're providing it examples of things that may have changed, but you're also having it sift through enormous amounts of data points to identify, we clearly see a positive or a negative shift here. And that really allows me to hone in on, what happened in that time period and how can I adjust for it. Another great tool is SEMrush. SEMrush allows for competitor analysis at a really granular level and can be really useful.
That's great. And what about like the Search Console?
So Google Search Console is generally going to be used for when you're looking at organics. Google Search Console is a fantastic tool that Google provides. Really gives you insight into organically, what are you firing for? How many impressions are you getting? What's your click-through rate, right? Dealing with your meta titles and your meta descriptions oftentimes. But Google Search Console really is only used for the organic side of search.
I know you've attended a lot of conferences lately, Logan. You have a ton of information running through your head. What can you share based on future trends and insights that home service companies should be on the lookout for?
There has never been a more exciting time to be in digital marketing than right now.
If you could see Logan's face right now, guys, you would know. He's excited.
I think that when we look at the future of digital marketing, one of the things that I like to talk about is you're never competing against AI, but you are competing against marketers that are using AI. In addition to that, though, you're increasingly seeing that consumers are wanting more content and personalized assets. And so what we see is that tailoring ad copy, really making it branded, honing in on the new changes to broad match intent signals are all key indicators that the overall market is moving towards a much more tailored, personalized, and also longer tail query period. Consumer searches are getting much longer, and that's because they're using more of how they would speak semantically in the way that they write out their queries.
Logan just used a lot of big words. So give me an example of that, Logan. Like use that in like an actual search you would do for a home service company.
So if we went back 2 years, in general, we would see just a lot of like plumber repair. And then, 6 months, a year later, we started seeing plumber repair near me. And now we're starting to see plumber repair companies near Minneapolis, Minnesota, or plumber repair companies near Minneapolis that are open 24/7. And so people, the way that they're searching is changing, right? And we always need to be on the lookout for how are consumers interacting with their search engines? What are they responding to? And also, what is Google pushing us towards? Google has to walk a really fine line of providing results to marketing companies while also making a lot of money. And so it's a really interesting time to be part of marketing.
That was a great answer. And I think just think of yourself, how you're changing the way you search, for companies and reviews. You might be even asking like, show me a company that has a 4.8 rating or above, right? Really great information. What else would you like to share with the home service industry while I have you on here, Logan?
I think that one of the key takeaways to remember from anything about this podcast is one, small optimizations to your ads accounts, whether that be grooming through keywords, adding in negative search terms, changing your location targeting, testing out different headlines and descriptions with your ads are all part of the experimental process. And in digital marketing, if you're not experimenting, you're failing. And some of those experiments that you do are going to be failures, but that's just the first step. And so you should always be looking at new ways to make yourself the company that consumers want to choose. What are your unique selling propositions? But in that same vein, work on building your brand. When you do searches, oftentimes you're going to see Home Depot, Lowe's, Yelp show up, right? And the reason why Google consistently surfaces those brands is because they have built trust. They've built awareness with consumers. And if you're a local business, how can you go out and build trust and awareness throughout your community so that when the time comes for that person to get home service repairs or an install, you're the one that they choose?
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast. The information was fantastic and some really great takeaways.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Before we let you go, we want to tell you about an exciting event, Home Service Spark Series webinar taking place Tuesday, September 17th at 10 a.m. Central Time. Katie Donovan, the CEO of Camp Digital, will be talking about the challenges and opportunities of marketing through an election year. This is a live webinar that you don't want to miss. To sign up, you can go to campdigital.com/webinar, or you can look at the show notes and the link below will take you there as well. We can't wait to see you there.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.